always were set out to IPO at some point. You knew that. Do you think that was heavily influenced with the fact that Rich started at Microsoft with Expedia? I'm guessing that's where you guys met when I came here.
Yeah. So I mean, Zillow was an atypical startup from the beginning, right? I mean, it's a second round company for most of us, second go round, and we raised the first round was $6 million from the founders, from ourselves, and then the next round was a $25 or $30 million round on just kind of a back of the napkin kind of a thing. So this is not not your typical bootstrap startup. That having been said, we always thought that this category, online real estate, should be able to support a company that has over $1 billion in revenue and has a $5 to $10 billion market cap, because so much is spent in this category that we never set out to, okay, how can we create a company and sell it to Google for $100 million, which I'm sure we could have done if that was our goal. But we always thought that there ought to be a multi-billion-dollar public company in this vertical. Like I'm involved in Techstars, for example, and when I meet with companies there, I encourage them to be realistic about exit possibilities for their business. And there is nothing wrong with starting a company, raising very, very little, and selling it for $10 or $20 million. That's an incredibly awesome exit. There are, for us in this vertical, we just have this different path and this different image.
Other questions? So you've just become public, but did you contemplate, a lot of us have small niche products, services, etc. Maybe you can't say much, but contemplating mergers and acquisitions of your own, what is the value to Zillow?
So we bought 3 companies so far. I see Justin over there. So Justin was the CEO of one of them. A company in Orange County called Diverse Solutions. We bought one, and we paid in the $5 to $10 million range for Diverse Solutions. We bought a company in San Francisco for $40 million. We've got 20 employees called Ranches. And we bought another company in San Francisco for about $1 million. So we bought 3 companies so far, and I hope to buy more. We've picked up talented employees with those acquisitions. We also picked up good additions to our core product. All 3 of those acquisitions provide tools to real estate professionals, software tools to the professionals in our industry, and we've incorporated or are incorporating different aspects of those tool sets into the core offering that we provide to real estate professionals. So that's M&A has accelerated our product development path, and one of the benefits of being public, I guess I should discuss for a moment, why go public? Well, one of the benefits, perhaps the biggest benefit, is actually having a lot of cash and the use of a public currency to be able to make acquisitions. We bought 2 of those companies after we were public already, and we probably couldn't have bought Ranches, for example, had we not gone public. So it's a big advantage.
Do you feel like your role in the company is quite different today than it was when you started, or has a lot of similarities to what you were doing at the time you started? And how do you perceive the product now as you sell it, and what you want it to be, that kind of thing? Your role in that.
So I spend more time on investor relations than I'd like. So it's changed in that regard. For example, I'd probably go to 1 or 2 investor conferences, which is a whole day or 2 of meeting with investors a month. And this morning, for example, I spent 2 hours with 15 investors that came through for an office visit, and I gained a lot from that, and I think they gained a lot from it. But that's 2 less hours that I was able to spend with thinking and talking about the product with our product team. I happen to be lucky at Zillow that the product doesn't really suffer from my lack of those 2 hours today, because we have incredibly talented people that are running the products, and also one of our co-founders in particular, Lloyd Frank, takes special attention and interest in the product. And so we kind of have our bases covered so that I don't have to be 100% focused on the product the way I might like to be. In terms of the product evolution, we are a very different company today than we were even a year ago at the IPO. Just for example, we have 13 different mobile apps today. A year ago, we had 5. Today, 61 homes are viewed a second on mobile. a year ago, 21 were. So 3x mobile growth in a year. So we're a much more mobile company today than we were a year ago. We're also in rentals and mortgages, much more so than we were a year ago. So we've expanded beyond kind of this core. And then from a staffing standpoint, most interestingly, I think, we now have, gosh, probably a third of the product development team that's focused on building tools for professionals. And the 3 acquisitions I mentioned, are a lot of that. But we also have a lot of people here in Seattle from within kind of the old core Zillow group that are focused on building tools for professionals. So we're now a B2B company as much as a B2C company. And so that has changed the product focus quite a bit.
So, from the infant stage up to, evolving from the infant stage to where you are now, how long did it take to get there?
So we started the company in 2005. We launched in February 2006. And so it was 5 years from ship V1 to IPO and 6 years from ship V1 to today. And today we're 450 employees. We're about 300 here in Seattle. We've got 3 floors. We're building out a 4th floor here. We've got about 50 in San Francisco and about 100 in Orange County, or will soon. We've got open positions, by the way, in all parts of the org here in Seattle, including SDEs and testers and designers and developers, you name it. So please come work here. We need your help.
So obviously you're real estate vertical, and your company, when you started, real estate was in a very different state than it was a couple years ago and than it is now. How did that affect the timeline for going IPO? How did that affect the risks that you might list in S1 and so on?
So we started the company since when real estate was still going straight up, and then it went straight down, and we were the ones kind of explaining why it was going down and telling everybody that it was going down, and now we're basically at the bottom. The downturn on the margin, I believe, was slightly helpful to our business, and primarily for 2 reasons. One, it helped accelerate the shift from offline to online spend for real estate agents, because when the market turned down, they just stopped spending everywhere. And then when they start spending again, they gravitate more naturally to the channels that are more measurable online rather than offline channels. And this is a pretty good lesson for all of you in whatever businesses you're in. I mean, volatility and disruption benefits the new entrant and hurts the incumbent. And so, I mean, my last company, I co-founded a company called Hotwire, which we sold to Expedia. And Hotwire was started in 1999, and in the post 9/11 years after 2001, the travel industry was a disaster, and everything was turned upside down, and that ended up being advantageous to the Hotwire story because, again, through that disruption, the travel suppliers just dramatically changed their thinking about distribution, and they more readily embraced these new entrants like online travel agencies like Hotwire because their core business was so threatened. So sometimes volatility and disruption and badness can actually turn out to be good, especially if you're a new entrant, which most of your companies are. Now that home values are basically flattening and increasing in some areas, that's a tailwind to the business because now agents make more money, and now they have more money to turn around and spend on advertising with us. Maybe we have time for one more question. I think I feel bad that you're all standing for so long. So how about just one more? Rebecca.
So do you think that any tech companies will file to go public the old way now that the Jobs Act is out?
I thought that they would, that there would be a stigma of companies not wanting, to kind of go this sort of sketchy kind of, somewhat quiet route. And yet, that hasn't been the case. Almost all of them, well, again, we don't really know exactly how many are on file confidentially, but from what people speculate, basically everybody continues to or has done the confidential route, not the traditional route. If it were us doing it right now, I think we would file the traditional way and not be on confidential file, because I like our story, I like our results. I would be happy to let everybody see them earlier and kind of build excitement and interest in the story. But I don't know, it's hard to know. I mean, clearly these companies are getting advice from their lawyers that investment bankers, this is the lower risk way. The big benefit, or one of the big benefits, is if the company goes sideways and they decide they think they can't go public, they can withdraw relatively quietly. Whereas, if you're on file publicly, then everybody thinks, oh, you're tainted, like you're a mess, you've been on file for 2 years, like, there's something wrong with the business. So I think that's the big benefit. But if you know that you're going to go and your numbers are likely to make it, I think I'd probably choose the traditional path of being public. If you're interested, you can feel free to grab a Zillowite and give a tour, hang out, enjoy the food, play some foosball and other games over here or whatever, and talk to any of our recruiters if you want about job positions. And thanks for being here.